Hey guys, it's Tom here from Pro Direct Running. Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be going on a deep dive and giving you some first run impressions of the all new Nike Ultrafly. So we all know that Nike have pretty much ruled the roost when it comes to road racing over the last few years with shoes like the Ultrafly and the Vaporfly. But with the Ultrafly, it is really the first application we're seeing of a carbon plate and a full-length ZoomX midsole in a trail shoe. Jumping into some of the key tech that you can find on the Ultrafly then, with the upper, we've got a vapor weave construction, which is very reminiscent of what you would find on the original Nike Vaporfly Next%. Essentially, this vapor weave upper is incredibly lightweight, very breathable, and also very good at mitigating the amount of water that is absorbed by the shoe. This was particularly notable on shoes like the Next% for marathon racing in wet conditions where you don't want the shoes to get too heavy, but I feel like it's an even more worthy application in a trail shoe where you're undoubtedly going to be going through puddles and boggy terrain. We've also got a fully gusseted tongue on the Ultrafly, which just enables a really nice secure look down on top of the foot and ensures that that tongue isn't going to be going anywhere whilst you're running. Jumping into the midsole then, and as I mentioned in the intro, this is the first time that we've got a full ZoomX midsole in a trail shoe. You might remember that we've seen a little bit of ZoomX in shoes like the Zagama, but this is the first time that we've got a full big fat wedge of ZoomX down there. One of the main things that you'll notice when you get the Ultrafly in hand and on foot is how, although it feels super soft and squidgy, reminiscent of the ZoomX that you'll find on the Vaporfly and indeed the Ultrafly, this ZoomX is coated in a fabric which essentially just keeps it nice and durable whilst you're running on the trails. ZoomX is one of the softest midsoles out there, made of PEBA foam, and so when you're running on those trails and you've got stones, rocks, sticks, twigs, tree roots, you've got to make sure that that foam stays nice and protected. So that's exactly what Nike have done here with the fabric wrap. Now then, sandwiched in the middle of that ZoomX midsole, we've got a carbon fiber fly plate, but this isn't the same cookie cutter plate that you'll have seen on the Vaporfly and Ultrafly. This is specifically catered and tuned for the trails, just to give you a little bit more flexibility and a bit more adaptability when you're running on uneven terrain. Flipping the Ultrafly over and taking a look at the outsole, aside from the midsole, the carbon plate, the vapor weave upper, this is probably the most exciting part of the shoe for me, as it's the first time that we're seeing a Vibram outsole on a trail shoe. Now, the significance of this really is the fact that Vibram is pretty much the gold standard when it comes to rubber. It's incredibly durable, incredibly grippy, and to see it on a Nike shoe for the first time just shows that they've really thrown the kitchen sink at this one when it comes to technology and innovation. When it comes to the traction and lug depth, we don't have too much aggression to the point where it feels firm and uncomfortable on harder terrains, dirt trails, canal towpaths, that kind of thing. But we've definitely got enough to make it suitable for, loose ground like we've got behind us here. When it comes to the nitty gritty then, jumping into the numbers, for the Ultrafly in a men's sample size, which is a US 10 or UK 9, you're looking at about 300 grams. And obviously shoes like the Vaporfly are significantly lighter than that, but for a trail shoe, that's pretty standard. And when you've got such a lovely, robust, durable outsole like we've got here, and a nice amount of cushioning in the heel counter, I'd say 300 grams is about right. At the time of recording, we don't have exact numbers for Nike when it comes to the stack height and the drop of the shoe, but I'm going to assume that we're looking at about 35 mil here and around about a 6mm drop. With all of the key tech specs out of the way, we were very lucky to get our hands on a pair nice and early, so without further ado, let's jump in to the run test. So Dan, you've been putting the Ultrafly through its paces. What kind of runs have you done in it up until now?
Yeah, so far I've put this through everything from a fast, short 5K over multi-terrain trail distances at my local park run, right up to long runs at ultra paces, and slowing things right down to even walking pace up hills and things like that. So yeah, I feel like I've put them through a pretty good test so far.
Yeah, you've dirtied up this absolutely beautiful colourway, which I suppose is what they're meant for. It does break my heart a little bit. So what were some of your first impressions when you got them out of the box and got them on feet?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, it's a beautiful looking shoe. especially in this sort of fresh white colorway. And I think noticeably, first of all, is just the big trail logo on the instep, which I really enjoy. I love that logo, so it's good to see it being a real design feature in the shoe. And then there's a couple of really nice little call outs on the shoe itself, with the tech details, the vapor weave call out, sort of some reflective bits in there as well. There's also on the heel, there's a noticeable kind of little heel tab there, just calling out that trail logo as well, which is a really nice little touch. And I was really excited to see a Vibram plate on the bottom of the shoe. I've got other shoes with Vibram soles, and I know that's going to be a durable shoe that's going to see a lot of mileage.
Yeah, mentioned it when we were going over the key tech, but obviously the more carbon plated road racing shoes, you don't expect them to be incredibly durable. So to see Nike team up with Vibram on this one is a really massive leap forward, I think, in that 100%. Trail space. So obviously a very pretty shoe, but in terms of the substance of it, how did it feel when you first got them on foot? What was the fit like? Is it true to size for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, when I first put this on, I'm a 9.5, putting on a 9.5. This felt really comfortable. I noticed immediately that there's a much wider toe box in the shoe, which is notably different from the likes of the Vaporfly and the Ultrafly. I like those road racing shoes to be very snug and sort of tight to like lock me down. But when you're running on trails, you kind of need to allow for your feet to, over time, potentially swell up. Maybe you're running up and down hills in a different way across different terrain, and your feet, may need that extra space. And I think there are other noted trail brands out there that pride themselves on kind of having a wider toe box. So to see Nike sort of bring that research and innovation into this shoe is really promising as well, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the key points that we were talking about off camera is how this isn't just a Vaporfly with a trail outsole waxed on top. Every single little detail is trail specific and thought out meticulously. So yeah, I think when you showed me initially, it was one of the first things I noticed as well, is just how wide that is in the forefoot.
Exactly.
Nice amount of toe splayage going on there.
And I think when you literally put them next to the Vaporfly, it's quite surprising how much wider it is. It sort of visually looks like it's almost half as wide again as a typical shoe, which again, I actually really liked that because I felt just super comfortable as I was running along as well. So yeah, it's a really good feature and worth calling out, especially if you've got wider feet as well. It just obviously allows for a bit more flexibility in there as well. The second thing I noticed about the shoe, putting it on, is just the width of the midsole itself as well, which gives you a real stable feel, and you notice it straight away that your feet, even when you're just stood on flat ground, you try and rock them side to side, and it's kind of keeping you in place quite nicely, which obviously has benefits going over multi-terrain, hitting stones and things like that. You're not going to roll your ankle and do yourself any injuries.
So obviously, mentioned it already, but one of the most exciting parts about the Ultrafly is that full-length ZoomX midsole. As someone who hasn't run in them yet, I'd be really curious to know how that ZoomX carbon plate and that fabric-wrapped midsole kind of interact with each other on the run for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a good sensation underfoot, but it's quite difficult to know whether it's the foam or the carbon plate that's really kicking in as you're running. But there's definitely a downhill, really a noticeable softness to that midsole that's sort of helping absorb on the downhill, and I felt really natural taking this up a gear especially when I was kind of running that kind of 5k off-road distance. It felt great to just sort of float through the gears in this shoe, and I was getting a lot of response out of it as well. That admittedly was on harder ground, so I got a great performance out of that. But I've since tested that over longer distances, and overall I think the midsole and the carbon plate combo for this shoe is really designed to look after you, to keep you less fatigued over those really long runs, and that's something I'll be really excited to kind of continue testing this and see how it performs in the next few runs.
Yeah, amazing. And when it comes to the comfort perhaps as well, how did it feel over that longer run that you went on? Obviously, shoes like the Vaporfly, the Ultrafly, they are more stripped back, they're a little bit more minimal. They've got to be comfortable to last a marathon, but ultimately if you're trying to run as fast as possible on the road, comfort slips down that priority order. But if you're out there for an ultra, you're running 50k, 100k, comfort has to be right at the top of that list, right? Yeah,
100%. I mean, I think I guess in terms of traction and grip, they perform really, really well, so things are comfortable in that regard. But there's a little bit more on the upper of the shoe compared to some of the road racing shoes where there's a little bit more padding, a little bit more kind of thought to kind of cushioning around the rest of the shoe as well. So yeah, the foam felt good underfoot, but I think the rest of the shoe certainly sort of gave me a really comfortable ride as well.
So one of the things I'm probably most curious about is, obviously with a carbon plated road racing shoe, you're not going to use it for your daily training. You're going to use it for your key sessions and your races. With a trail racing shoe like this, where you've got that Zoom X foam, you've got that carbon plate, how would you factor it into a trail running rotation? Would you use this for everything, or would you still want like a few shoes in that repertoire?
So if you're running really high mileage ultras quite often, then I think adding another shoe into your rotation is going to help you extend the life of this shoe. But yeah, if your mileage is a lot lower and maybe you run on the roads a lot and the trails occasionally, then I think this shoe could do it all.
So that's just about going to do it for this first look and run review of the Nike Ultrafly. Dan, if people want to get their feet in a pair, how can they go about doing so?
Yeah, so we'll have these at ProDirect. They're going to be extremely limited in numbers, but we'll make sure we update the description below so you can get your hands on a pair.